What if the hidden truths of the universe were not locked in secret societies of the West, but whispered centuries ago by the mystics of the East? What if the 7 Hermetic Laws, spoken of in Egypt and Greece, were also preserved in the writings of Ibn Arabi, Suhrawardi, Ghazali, and Jabir ibn Hayyan? Most people believe Hermeticism is separate from Islam, from Sufism, from the traditions of the mystics. But the fragments tell a different story. In their works, scattered across centuries, we find the same principles: that reality is mind, that the inner mirrors the outer, that all things move in vibration, and that creation itself rests on balance. This is not coincidence. This is convergence. Ibn Arabi, known as the greatest sheikh, wrote that the universe is imagination and man is its mirror. Suhrawardi spoke of reality as light and shadow, vibrating through degrees of existence. Al-Ghazali warned of cause and consequence, that nothing is without a reason. And Jabir ibn Hayyan, the great alchemist, described the cycles and rhythms that bind all things. They did not call these teachings Hermetic Laws, but when you compare the patterns, the reflection is undeniable. What Hermes Trismegistus encoded in his tablets, the Sufi mystics echoed in their language of remembrance. In this video, we uncover them, one by one, not as abstract philosophy, but as truths that Sufi saints themselves touched. And once you see them, you may never see the world the same way again. The first law is the law of mentalism. All is mind. The universe is mental. Hermes said it, but centuries later, Ibn Arabi hinted at the same truth in a different tongue. The universe is imagination, and man is its mirror. For Ibn Arabi, the cosmos was not a machine of matter, but a field of consciousness, an endless dream of the divine. Everything that exists began first as a thought, an image in the unseen realm. The stars, the mountains, even your own life, all flow from that hidden current of imagination. The mystic warned his students, if you do not polish the mirror of your mind, what it reflects will be distorted. He meant that what you hold within, your fears, desires, and hidden beliefs, will inevitably shape the outer reality you walk in. This was no metaphor, it was law. From this, Ibn Arabi guided them to the second law, the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. For him, the human being was the microcosm, a miniature universe reflecting the vast macrocosm. Every star had its echo in the human body. Every rhythm of the heavens had its counterpart in the soul. He wrote, man is a mirror of the cosmos, and the cosmos is a mirror of man. To know one is to know the other. This is why the mystics could look within and see the universe, and why they could look at the stars and recognize themselves. The law was not an abstraction. It was a lived experience. And so, the first 2 Hermetic laws find their reflections in the writings of Ibn Arabi. The universe as mind. The inner and outer as mirrors. The third law is the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Suhrawardi, the master of illumination, spoke of reality not as solid matter, but as layers of light, each degree shining, dimming, vibrating at different intensities. For him, existence was a hierarchy of illumination, from the light of lights at the highest, down through countless degrees until shadows emerged. This was vibration in mystical language. What science would later prove with atoms, Suhrawardi described with light. Every state of being, every thought, every emotion was a kind of radiance. Fear was a dim vibration, love a radiant one. The seeker's task was to rise in vibration, climbing from shadow to light. He wrote, all things shine by degrees. To know them is to know their motion. And then came the fourth law, the law of polarity. Everything is dual. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Suhrawardi's entire philosophy rested on polarity. Light and darkness, presence and absence, knowledge and ignorance, all opposites, yet all connected. Darkness was not the enemy of light, but its degree of absence. The two were not separate forces, but points on the same spectrum. For Suhrawardi, this polarity was the secret of understanding reality. By seeing light in shadow and shadow in light, the mystic learns balance. He no longer fears the dark, for he knows it is only a lower frequency of the same light. The Hermetic laws of vibration and polarity were not hidden in Suhrawardi's time. They were spoken clearly, only in the language of illumination. And the mystic who understood them gained the ability not just to endure reality, but to rise through its degrees. The fifth law is the law of rhythm. Everything flows, out and in. Everything has its tides. Jabir ibn Hayyan, the great alchemist of the Islamic world, understood this deeply. In his writings on alchemy, he described the cycles of nature, the transformations of matter, and the endless rise and fall of energies. For him, the entire cosmos moved in patterns, like the beating of a heart. Metals shifted through stages, bodies aged and renewed, stars burned and died, and then returned again. This was rhythm, the alchemist's way of saying what the Hermetic sages declared. Nothing is permanent, everything flows. Jabir wrote, "He who knows the cycles commands transformation, for what rises must fall, and what falls will rise again." And from this cycle, we arrive at the sixth law, the law of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Ghazali, the great theologian and mystic, argued fiercely against those who believed the universe was random. He declared that every event, no matter how small, is tied to a cause, and that behind every cause is the will of the divine. For him, nothing happened without reason. Even the flutter of a leaf, even the breaking of a heart had its cause, hidden or revealed. "There is no accident," he wrote. "All things are bound by chains of wisdom, whether we see them or not." But he also offered hope. Since causes lead to effects and choices are causes, man is never powerless. To act with intention, to live with awareness, is to shape the effects that will inevitably come. The alchemist and the theologian, Jabir and Ghazali, spoke the same truth in different voices, that life moves in cycles, and every ripple has its return. The seventh law is the law of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. In Hermetic philosophy, this law explained creation, the union of active and receptive forces, the seed and the soil, the sun and the moon. But the same idea appears clearly in the writings of the Sufi masters. Ibn Arabi wrote of the divine as containing both principles, the giver and the receiver, the manifest and the hidden. For him, creation itself was the result of this balance. He said, "The world is a marriage, and without union, nothing comes into being." Suhrawardi too spoke of this duality in terms of light. The radiant, overflowing light was masculine. The receptive, reflective darkness was feminine. Together they produced all degrees of existence. To deny one was to cripple the other. The mystics did not frame this law in terms of man and woman alone. They saw it as a cosmic truth, present in every breath, every action, every soul. Within each person, there is the force that acts and the force that receives. The seeker's task is not to suppress one, but to harmonize both. Ibn Arabi hinted at this when he described the perfect human being, the insan al-kamil, as the one who contains opposites in balance. Suhrawardi echoed it with his vision of light, flowing through degrees until it unites with its shadow. Thus, the Hermetic law of gender finds its reflection in Sufism, not as a doctrine of separation, but as a call to wholeness, to act with strength and rest in surrender, to carry both currents within and let creation flow through you. When the Sufi masters revealed fragments of these laws, they did not intend them as abstract philosophy. They were not meant for dusty libraries or hidden temples. They were meant to be lived. Ibn Arabi wrote that the human mind is a mirror, and what it reflects becomes the world outside. This is mentalism, and so the seeker must guard his thoughts like treasures. To allow fear or hatred to linger within is to cast those shadows into reality. To cultivate remembrance is to reflect light back into the world. From there comes correspondence, the inner and outer as mirrors. Ibn Arabi saw man as the microcosm of the macrocosm, a universe contained in miniature. To study yourself is to read the cosmos, and to read the cosmos is to rediscover yourself. Suhrawardi taught that everything is vibration, degrees of light and shadow. By raising your inner vibration, you ascend toward clarity, toward illumination. By sinking into lower frequencies, you descend into confusion. The choice of vibration shapes your entire reality. In his teachings on polarity, Suhrawardi warned not to curse opposites. Darkness is not the enemy of light, but its lesser degree. Joy and sorrow, life and death, they are bound together. The wise do not flee from one into the other. They recognize both as faces of the same truth. Jabir ibn Hayyan revealed the rhythm of life, cycles of rise and fall, gain and loss. The alchemist said, "What is destroyed is prepared to be renewed. To resist the tide is suffering, but to flow with it is mastery." Ghazali explained cause and effect as the very structure of the universe. Nothing is chance, nothing is wasted. Every act plants a seed. The only freedom man has is to plant differently today than he did yesterday. This is responsibility, but also liberation. And finally, gender, the balance of forces within. Ibn Arabi's perfect man and Suhrawardi's vision of light both describe the union of masculine and feminine energies. To act with will, but also to yield with grace. To create not by force, but by harmony. The mystics did not call these teachings Hermetic Laws, but in their writings the echoes are clear, and for those who live them, life itself changes. But the masters warned, to know the laws is not the same as to live them. The world thrives on forgetfulness, it rewards distraction, it feeds illusion, and it blinds the heart with noise. The moment a seeker begins to walk with the laws, resistance arises. When you practice mentalism, you see how restless the mind truly is. Ibn Arabi wrote that most men live in borrowed imagination, fears placed by society, desires planted by others. To reclaim your mind is to wage war against this invasion, to polish the mirror of thought until it shines with your own truth. With correspondence, doubt appears. The ego whispers, "How could I, a small being, reflect the vastness of the cosmos?" But the mystics insisted, "You are not separate from the universe. You are its reflection in miniature. To forget this is blindness. To remember, it is awakening." In vibration, the challenge is emotional. Suhrawardi warned that heavy vibrations, anger, envy, despair, spread like fire. To rise above them requires discipline, not denial of emotion, but recognition that you are not bound to its lowest frequency. You can ascend. Polarity confronts you with opposites. You want joy without sorrow, light without shadow, life without death. But to reject one half is to reject the whole. Suhrawardi taught that only the one who accepts both degrees sees reality as it is. Through rhythm, life tests you. Just when you think you have found peace, the tide turns. Loss comes. Chaos rises. The mystics did not say the rhythm would spare you. They said it would teach you. To resist it is pain. To trust it is freedom. Cause and effect can be the harshest trial. Al-Ghazali wrote, "You will reap what you have sown, whether in light or in shadow." The past does not vanish, it echoes. Yet this law is also mercy, for you can sow differently today, and tomorrow will echo with new fruits. And with gender, the struggle is balance. In a world obsessed with force, action, and domination, the receptive principle is forgotten. Yet without it, creation collapses. Ibn Arabi's perfect man is whole precisely because he carries both currents within. The saints warned, "Do not expect perfection, expect practice. To live by the laws is to fall and rise, to forget and remember, again and again. The laws are not cages, they are companions." In time, the struggle gives way to something quieter. The laws stop feeling like rules to follow and begin to feel like the rhythm of your own being. They are no longer weights to carry, they are wings. When you live with mentalism, you no longer fight every stray thought. Instead, you gently shape the inner world, knowing it reflects outward. Ibn Arabi's mirror becomes clear, and what it shows is beauty, not distortion. With correspondence, you begin to see the pattern everywhere. The spiral of a shell mirrors the spiral of galaxies. The rhythm of your breath mirrors the rhythm of the cosmos. Above and below are not separate. They are one continuous fabric. Vibration becomes practice. You sense the frequency of moments, of people, of places. You learn how to rise when heaviness comes, how to resonate with peace even in storm. Suhrawardi's light ceases to be theory, it becomes lived experience. Through polarity, you stop running from opposites. Sorrow no longer terrifies you because you see in it the seed of joy. Shadow no longer paralyzes you because you know it is only a dimmed degree of light. Life becomes less a battle of extremes and more a dance between them. Rhythm transforms your perspective on change. You do not cling to summer nor despair at winter. You know tides turn, seasons shift, and every fall prepares the ground for new growth. Loss becomes teacher, not curse. Cause and effect ceases to feel like punishment. It becomes reassurance. You trust that what you plant with intention will return in its time. You stop fearing the echoes of the past and instead begin planting seeds for a future born of awareness. And in gender, you discover wholeness, the will to act and the grace to receive, the firmness to stand and the softness to yield. These are no longer in conflict. They live together in harmony. The mystics promised, when you embody these laws, the world itself seems to change. Not because the world has shifted, but because your eyes have opened. And what once looked like chaos begins to look like design. And so the circle closes. The Hermetic Laws were not foreign secrets locked away in Egypt or Greece. Their echoes lived in the writings of Ibn Arabi, Suhrawardi, Jabir ibn Hayyan, and al-Ghazali. Each in their own way touched the same eternal truths, that mind shapes reality, that the inner mirrors the outer, that all things move in vibration, that opposites belong to one spectrum, that life flows in rhythm, that every cause bears its effect, and that creation itself rests on balance. These mystics did not call them Hermetic Laws. They called them remembrance, illumination, order, and wisdom. But the pattern is unmistakable. To forget these laws is to stumble blindly through a world that seems cruel and random. To live them is to awaken into a universe that is precise, alive, and purposeful. Ibn Arabi once wrote, "The universe is imagination, and man is its mirror." Suhrawardi taught, "All things shine by degrees." Jabir reminded, "What falls will rise again." And Ghazali declared, "Nothing is accident. All things are bound by wisdom." Different words, different centuries, yet all pointing to the same hidden architecture of reality. The laws are not outside you. They move within you. They shape your thoughts, your choices, your rhythms, your relationships. To recognize them is to reclaim responsibility. To live them is to step beyond illusion. And perhaps, as you listened, something stirred in you, a recognition, a resonance, a glimpse of pattern. If so, let it not fade. Leave a trace of it here in your own words as a light for those who will arrive after you, still searching, still wondering if they are alone in seeing the design beneath the veil. Because sometimes a single reflection is enough to remind another soul that the laws are not forgotten. They are alive, here, now, moving through us all.